Please stand and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Mr. Kowalski.
Mrs. Kozer? Here. Dr. Laughlin? Here. Mrs. Maines? Here. Mr. McCommon?
Here.
Mr. Merle D. Music?
Here.
Mr. Merle L. Music?
Here.
Mr. Repko?
Here.
Dr. Zorch?
Here.
And Mr. Hauser?
Here. At this time, I'd like to turn the meeting over to our solicitor, Mr. Nagel.
Yeah, it's my duty to alert the public that we did have an executive session before this meeting. Under the public safety exception to the executive session, we briefly discussed the health and safety plan that will be approved on tonight's agenda. We had two personnel matters that we discussed. The first was a difference in the agenda from last week. A custodian had found other employment and would not be on the agenda. The second personnel matter that we discussed was a discussion of how bus drivers are approved in the district. And finally, we also discussed a matter which, if discussed publicly, would violate student privilege and confidentiality, and that is the approval of the student due process.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. At this time, I'd like to open the floor up to hearing visitors part one. This is where anyone in the audience can stand up and speak to anything that's on our agenda for this evening. Please state your name and address. Seeing no one, I move for adoption of resolution number 160, approval of the minutes.
Second.
The motion on the floor is second. Questions or comments on the motion? All in favor? Opposed? And that motion passes. Solicitor's report, Mr. Nichols.
I recommend that you move on resolution number 161, the approval of the settlement agreement and release regarding student number 2 in the due process matter previously mentioned.
So moved.
Second.
A motion on the floor and second. Questions or comments on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes.
Nothing further, Mr. President.
Education planning, Mrs. Mays.
Yes, thank you. I move for adoption of resolution number 162 to approve the review of the Greater Latrobe School District's ARC ESSER Health and Safety Plan for the 22-23 school year without any revisions or changes to the attached plan, and authorize administration to submit the plan to the Pennsylvania Department of Education and post publicly on the district website as required.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor and second. Questions or comments on the motion? Mrs. Brahowski, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. McCommon?
Yes.
Merle D. Music?
Yes.
Mr. Merle L. Music?
Yes.
Mr. Repko?
Yes.
Dr. Zorch?
Yes.
Mrs. Kozer?
Yes.
Dr. Laughlin?
Yes.
Mrs. Maines?
Yes.
And Mr. Hauser?
Yes.
Motion
Thank you, Ms. Brahowski.
And I have an announcement that the next curriculum committee meeting will be held on Tuesday, April the 18th of 2023 at 5:30 p.m. here in the CFC in Allen Hall.
Thank you, Mrs. Mays. Finance, I'd like to bundle resolution number 163 and 164, which is the treasurer's report and the payment of bills. I move for adoption of that motion.
Second.
A motion on the floor and second. Questions or comments on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. I move for adoption of resolution number 165, to approve tax appeal settlement proposal for parcel number 61-20-00-0-124 as recommended by Andrews and Price.
Second.
A motion on the floor and second. Questions or comments on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? adopt resolution number 166 to approve DASB number 75 compliance as listed below.
Second.
A motion on the floor and second. Questions or comments on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes. I move for adoption of resolution number 167 to approve postage machine lease rental for renewal.
Second.
Motion on the floor is second. Questions or comments on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes. I move for adoption of resolution number 168 to approve disposal and sale of property.
Second.
Second.
A motion on the floor and second. Questions or comments on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes. I move for adoption of resolution number 169 to approve the electricity procurement agreement.
Second.
A motion on the floor and second. All, questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion passes. I move for adoption of resolution number 170 to approve natural gas procurement.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor and second. Questions or comments on the motion? All in favor? Opposed? And that motion passes. Our next Finance Committee meeting will be Tuesday, March 14th, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. at the Senior High School Library. Facilities Operation Planning. Our next Facilities Operation Planning meeting will be Thursday, March 9th at 3:30 p.m. at the Avenue Building. Student Activities and Recreation, Mr. Music.
No report this evening, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Music. Community Relations, Mrs. Maines.
Yes. The next Latrobe GLSD Parks and Recreation Commission meeting will be held on Thursday, March 16th at 4:30 p.m. in the Unity Township Municipal Building. And I'll keep going if that's what you want me to do. The next WIU committee meeting will be held on Tuesday, February 28th, 2023 at 7 p.m. in the Fred Rogers Room.
Thank you, Mrs. Maines.
Thank you.
Transportation, Mr. Music.
No report this evening.
Thank you. EWCTC Joint Operating Committee, Ms. Cozar.
Yes, our next joint operating committee meeting will be tomorrow evening, 7 p.m. in WCPC. And then moving on to board policy, I move for the adoption of resolution number 171, notice of intent to adopt these board policies as listed.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor and second. Questions or comments on the motion? All in favor? Opposed? And that motion passes. Technology, we have no report this evening. Superintendent's recommendations, Mr. Kremka.
Mr. House, I ask the board to move on resolution number 172 to approve the resignations as listed.
So moved.
Second.
A motion on the floor and second. Questions or comments on the motion? All in favor? Opposed? And that motion passes.
Ask the board to move on resolution number 173, professional personnel substitute teachers. We have one listed.
So moved.
Second.
Motion on the floor and second. Questions or comments on the motion? All in favor? Opposed? That motion passes.
Ask the board to move on resolution number 174 to approve personnel classified appointments. We have one.
So moved.
Second.
Motion on the floor and second. Questions or comments on the motion? All in favor? Opposed? And that motion passes.
Ask the board to move on resolution number 175, support personnel supplemental appointment as listed.
So moved.
Second.
We have a question, we have a motion on the floor and second. Questions or comments on the motion? All in favor? Opposed? That motion passes.
Ask the board to move on resolution number 176 to approve our 2022-2023 spring sports coaches and their salaries, which is a part of the attachment.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor and second. Questions or comments on the motion? All in favor? Opposed? That motion passes.
And I would ask the board to move on resolution number 177 to advertise the board retreat, that the Greater Latrobe Board of School Directors hereby authorizes the board secretary to advertise a board retreat to be held Saturday, March 25th, 2023 at 9 a.m. in the Senior High School Center for Student Creativity.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion on the floor and second. Questions or comments on the motion? All in favor? Opposed? That motion passes.
In other business, we have the class of 2027. Class of 2027. Numbers keep getting out of hand.
Yes, they do.
The scheduling fair is scheduled for February 23rd. That's in the CSC. Pippin will be presented on March 3rd, 4th, and 5th. If board members are interested in seeing one of those or all of those shows, see Mrs. Prohosky or let her know that we'd like tickets. We just had in-service on Friday, followed by a day off, and I had emailed the staff and said, we are now in that grind. The grind from President's Day to the spring break. And there are very few times off in between there. But it is amazing, we'll go from the third quarter to the fourth quarter here pretty quickly. But we do have parent-teacher conferences scheduled in the evening on March 9th. Mrs. Brodsky added, and I was glad that she did, the annual Loyal and True Dinner. That's the Greater Latrobe Partners in Education Foundation, our yearly dinner. We'll be recognizing Barry and Linda Banker this year as alums of distinction. They provided a couple of nice offspring to our district. Although they're being recognized for much more than creation. Yes. But anyway,
Man,
then
he's digging this hole. Keep going, Bob.
Trigger the bulletin getting all that?
They want transparency.
Anyhow, the annual Loyal and True Dinner. Can you get me out of this, please?
No, nobody help him.
Like what's on the train, right?
Verbatim, I'll give you that quote at the end if you want it. The annual Loyal and True Dinner is Thursday, March 16th at the St. Vincent College Rogers Center. Our next board meeting is...
It's a lovely evening, too.
Oh, it is.
Education Foundation.
It really is.
It's really a nice evening, so I hope you'll all attend.
I forgot, your statement of financial interests are due by May 1. Please do that, or Mrs. Prohosky will come to your house and make you do it. I need to choose my words carefully. Our next committee, the whole meeting is the 14th, the regular board meeting is the 21st, and as I said before, the board retreat, which is open to the public, is on March 25th. Mr. President, that concludes my elaborate and informative report.
At this time, I'd like to open the floor up to hearing visitors part 2. This is where anyone in the audience can come to the podium, speak of any concerns they may have with the district. You would state your name and address, and we are limited to 3 minutes. Seeing no one, I move for adoption of resolution number 178, adjournment. We have a motion second. All in favor? Opposed? We are adjourned.